last 2 years, waves of varying COVID restrictions have kept many people isolated from loved ones or stuck in an unhappy relationship at home. The pressure has had a big effect on many couples. Joining us now with how the fallout has been hitting families is divorce lawyer Stuart Zuckerman. Good morning, Stuart. Thanks for joining us.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
We've been hearing about the additional strain that a lot of families and couples are under because of the pandemic. What are you and your colleagues experiencing in terms of the impact of this pandemic?
Well, we are seeing, as compared to pre-pandemic years, about a 25 to 30% increase over each of the last 2 years in terms of the numbers of separations and divorces coming in through the door. January is always a busy month. People make resolutions. And so the first week of January, we always get a lot of calls, but definitely a higher number than normal. And of course, over the past 2 years, we've also had a number of calls from people having disputes with their spouses over the COVID restrictions and how to deal with their children, especially if they're already separated and have two households that have two different sets of rules. So that's been an issue as well as some increased violence, domestic violence being reported as compared to pre-COVID years.
And do you attribute the increase in separations only to COVID, or are there other factors at play as well?
Well, there is a big factor, and that is the increase in property values. In the last 2 years, over the Lower Mainland, most areas have seen increases in the market value of their property from 25 to 40%. And so that results in a tremendous increase in equity. And when people are cooped up and living under the strain of COVID and there's the strains of the relationship and they're not happy with each other, if you have the ability to leave and take 50% of that increased equity, that has a big motivating factor for a lot of people to want to get out of their relationships.
Okay, so let's talk more about that. What impact does property value increases have on separating couples?
Well, when COVID hit in the spring of 2020, the courts shut down from about March till July or so, and then they've had restricted public access since that time. A lot of availability over Zoom, but normal applications are all done video conferences, and trials have been backlogged. And that delay has caused significant, over that delay period, the property values have increased significantly. So, for example, I had a case that was set for trial in the spring of 2020 that got adjourned. When we were ready to go to trial, we were doing it on an appraisal that said the home was worth $1.7 million. When it was reset for trial in August of 2021, we were working on a new valuation that said at that date it was worth $2.3 million, so a $600,000 increase. We ended up settling at mediation in August, and then the property sold in September for $2.7 million. So $400,000 above the amount we had based the agreement on. We had to go back into that agreement and get it opened up again and renegotiate the numbers to account for the increase. So those huge increases in equity have had a very significant impact on people separating and divorcing.
If one spouse, let's say the husband owns the home and the couple separated in 2019 and the husband keeps paying the household bills for the 2 years after separation, and then when they go to trial 2 years later, the home's market value has gone up by hundreds of thousands of dollars, which we have seen can happen. Do both spouses equally share that market gain, even if one spouse did not contribute financially after the separation?
Generally speaking, yes. The presumption is that both spouses are equally entitled to share in the increase in equity. That is subject to an adjustment to equally divide certain costs like property taxes, utilities, insurance, the reduction in the mortgage that took place over the period of separation, or major repairs. But generally speaking, if you own 50% of something on day one, you still own 50% of it until the date that it's divided, and any increase between those dates is shared equally between the parties. So we have seen a lot of those situations with the equity increasing and that cash out taking place in terms of dividing that extra equity.
Well, there's a lot for couples to consider when deciding to separate it. It's interesting how real estate can really play a role in all that. Stuart Zuckerman, thank you so much for joining us this morning for your insights.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.